Hello everyone, guys, girls, friends, families, haters, dogs, cats, gerbils, kids in the back of the car, and the people on the bus hearing this when you accidentally play out loud. I'm Rach.
And I'm Faith. Welcome to the Is It Normal podcast.
We love it that you're here. Episode 7, baby!
Here we are. Again. Can you believe this is 7?
No, I know.
That's
like,
wild.
I know.
That's
more than a month.
Yeah. Quite a lot more than a month. Nearly 2. That also means that at the end of this episode, because when we record, typically they're like an hour to an hour and a half.
Yeah.
That's like a lot of time that we have like recorded ourselves talking to each other. That's a lot of time.
Yeah.
And like, I don't feel like we're running out of things to talk about either.
Yeah, because we're still having like 3-hour gym sessions where we talk the whole time.
Yeah, literally.
Like, I didn't realise I had this many thoughts. So it was kind of just
I think I probably knew that I had.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, I'm oblivious, aren't I? Right, show and tell.
Show and tell. Do you want to go first or do you want me to go first?
Yeah, I can go first.
Go on.
My show and tell is a thing that I saw. That I can't.
I wonder where.
And it said something along the lines of, feel free to jump in and make it make sense.
Okay.
If you feel like you're not progressing or growing, would you want to be the person you were this time last year?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I was like, ooh.
Yeah. So would you want to swap places with the person you were last year? This time last year? Do you remember who you were this time last year?
I know I had just started a new job and I was quite overwhelmed. But again, here I am, overwhelmed, so...
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't. I feel like I'm in a much better place than I was. I feel like 2025 has been pretty good for me, I'm not gonna lie. Like, as in, mentally, emotionally, like, growth-wise.
Yeah.
Relationship-wise. No, I wouldn't want to go back. I do feel like I've grown as an individual.
Nice.
Would you?
I don't think I would want to swap places with who I was this time last year. But I think that's more to do with like what was coming in the rest of the year. Obviously I know what happened in the rest of the year last year, and I don't think I'd want to. Well, I definitely wouldn't want to relive that. I think though, as we're talking about it, I do feel like maybe we need to caveat it a little bit, because obviously some years. I know we're talking in the context of years, aren't we? Which is very like rigid, but like some times in life, you would 100% swap places with the person you were the year before, because maybe some pretty tough stuff has happened,
and you're in like a much worse place, like mentally or like
because
financially
of your
or
context.
physically.
And I think that's
not a failure.
Yeah, that's not
a failure.
It's
at
not
all.
worth like devaluing the fact that like life is seasonal and stuff does get hard, and just because stuff is hard doesn't mean that you're a failure or you're lacking anything. And so like I think it's helpful if you're in a headspace where you're like,
I need to be better, I need to be better, I'm not good enough, like then it's quite helpful to be like, whoa, step back, let's see how far you've come. I think you're always growing though, aren't you? Like so even if you have had a like horrendous year and like you've still learned and grown and gotten wiser. Do you mean there is always good in amongst the difficulties? So maybe on like a smaller scale there are definitely like still things to be like, no, I have gotten better at or I do this thing more regularly.
And maybe the value in that whole little prompt thing is to do with reconsidering what is progress. Yes. Like how once again with the definitions, how do you define progress? Does that have to be I've got more money, I've got a bigger house, I've got X, Y, Z, nicer car, whatever? Or can that be
I'm more content with my small house. I'm glad I've got a car that works. My gratitude is improved. Do you know what I mean? Like,
or even like a loved one went through a really tough spell with like health, and that means that I value my loved one more. Or like, do you know what I mean? I guess that's like,
because it's not so much like, oh, am I getting PBs in the gym? It can be more like, am I more patient?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it's different people's definitions of growth, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I guess the things that you want to improve.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good caveat. Thank you for bringing the definitions and the caveats. We love them both.
Just love a bit of nuance.
Oh, we do.
Cool. Okay.
What is your show and tell?
My show and tell, I feel like with show and tell, they're always polar opposites. Because mine is literally the most stupid thing in comparison. Basically, I don't even know. To be honest, I don't even know if I can call it a show and tell. I have nothing to show. I have something to tell. One of my... So, like, my best friend in work, basically, like, the colleague that I'm closest with.
Glad you caveat work. I was about to be like,
it was her birthday yesterday, actually. But it was her birthday, and we decided that we were gonna go and get lunch together. And then it was one of those, like, awkward, it was like a couple of days before payday, so we decided to not go and get lunch, to go and get a coffee instead, which I love that flexibility. Very cool. And it was really warm, and so in my head I've been like, yeah, cool, I'll get a coffee and that'll be great. But obviously then I was like, you know, sweating, being like, I don't really want a hot coffee right now. And so she was like, oh, why don't you just get like an iced coffee? And I was like, oh, I don't like iced coffee. So basically my show and tell is that
you hadn't tried an iced coffee?
No.
Or she just assumed you didn't like them?
Yeah, I don't like milkshakes. I don't like, I don't tend to like...
It's a completely different consistency.
Milky, chocolatey, watery. I don't tend to like drinks that you can't see through. Apart from...
Coffee.
Tea and coffee. That's the most rogue definition of...
Oh no, I'm just one of those people who... I don't like drinks, I can't see through them.
No, I think it's cold drinks in particular.
Okay.
Like drinks that like have ice in them, or like,
so,
are designed to be cold. It makes sense in my head, okay?
Go back to the story.
So, the story. So, I tried iced coffee and I really liked it.
Yay! Faith likes iced coffee.
This is why I mean about it being polar opposite. Because you're like, what is progress? And I'm like, iced coffee.
That's it. That's growth, bro.
It is.
You tried
something
new.
It is. And
I'm so proud of
really
you.
Liked it.
We'll get one after this.
And I've like had
Did
one
you have
basically
flavour?
every day since. What?
Did you have flavour with it?
No, I just had...
Oh.
I had ice. Just a nice latte, I think.
And now iced lattes are on the nice list.
They are. It's true.
So, we don't have a poll this week because they're still cooking. So go cast your votes so then we can chat about it in the next episode. Or the one after that. We'll see how you feel. It's up to us. It's our podcast. Yeah, go cast your votes. And then that's on Spotify.
Yep.
And if you have any questions, queries, concerns, then email us at theisitnormalpodcast@gmail.com or go and DM us or post on one of our videos on Instagram and TikTok at theisitnormalpodcast. Today's question is, drum roll please. You're welcome, Joss. Is it normal to
have conflict with your friends?
Yes. Do you have conflict with your friends?
Yeah, I think so. Do you?
Do they know about it?
It's all,
just in my head.
In my head.
I hate them.
I think that it can kind of depend on the friend.
Yeah.
There are some friends where like we're probably like not close enough, or we don't see each other enough for there to be conflict.
Yeah.
And like also, if I was like a little bit upset about something or whatever, like I'm probably not going to bother bringing it up. There are some friends where I think it's really important that you do communicate those things and you talk about it and you kind of like do have, like, you do actually have the conflict. Because I guess that's the thing, isn't it? I don't think necessarily the option is have conflict or don't have conflict. I think it's like have conflict or kind of brush stuff under the carpet a little bit. Yeah. Like, I don't, unless I'm just a really sensitive person, which I am a little bit sensitive anyway, But like, I think most people have stuff in interpersonal stuff that like upsets them or whatever.
And we're all human, and we're all like a bit annoying or a bit selfish or a bit mean sometimes. Like there's if you're in a close relationship, there is going to be conflict of some sort. And I think it's just, as a society, we only view that in like marriages or relationships because it's like, oh, they're a really close relationship, so there'll be conflicts. It's like, you know how they always say like the first year of marriage is the hardest because like that's when all the conflict happens, or like a lot of it, and you have like couples counsellors, or you have like marriage advice from everyone. So I think there's like, it's expected in relationships. It's expected when you move in with someone. It's expected in that kind of forum. Whereas with friendships, I think it's almost, sometimes it could be like, oh, maybe we're not supposed to be friends if we're having conflict. Like, friendship's supposed to be easier than relationships. But like, some friendships are honestly closer than, like, platonic friendships can actually be closer than like romantic relationships, I think, sometimes. So there's always gonna be issues of conflict again, because everyone's human. So I think is accepting like, oh, this is normal, how do we go about that, I think is the difficulty.
And I think like as well, when we're talking about conflict, again with the definitions, like I think conflict can sound like, oh, we had like a fight, whereas conflict can be like, oh, that was a little bit annoying, or you're a little bit
the wrong way a bit.
You're a bit annoyed with each other, you're a bit upset with each other, you have to give each other a bit more space because you know there's stuff going on, or whatever. And people deal with conflict differently. Some people are like argumentative, they want to talk it out, they want to shout about it, whatever. Other people want to go away and process it and think about it, and it all goes on internally. Like, some people want to avoid it at all costs, and will go the other way, and will be very people pleasy to avoid it,
or ruin the relationship to avoid. Like, will rather the relationship break down than to have a conflict to resolve things. Because in my eyes, conflict done well is just like preservation of a relationship. Because the reason we have conflict is to know each other better, to understand each other more, and then have better relationships going forward. If it's done well and kindly and nicely.
And even if it's not done nicely, that's still like, you're still able to preserve the relationship through like fixing the conflict. Do you know what I mean?
Because it's rupture and repair, isn't it? So like, when there's a rupture, how are we going to repair that? And even if you have to repair the repair.
Exactly.
But like, But again, that's still growing, isn't it? And I think there's this whole idea of like, someone loves me if they know how to love me properly, or like if they love me the way that I like to be loved. So for example, it could be like, oh, he really loves me because he buys me flowers, I like being bought flowers, and I don't have to tell him to buy me flowers. Versus, so like in romantic comedy kind of goggles on, that's like, oh, he loves me because I don't have to tell him how to love me. Whereas I think like actual love is putting the time and the effort and the energy into learning someone and how they want to be loved, and changing your behaviours then to suit that. So for example, if I was in a relationship with someone and I'm like, gifts is their love language, then when I'm at the shop, I'll buy them their favourite snack. And like, I'll be conscious of that, because I'm like, that's how they receive love. Maybe gift giving isn't my love language, maybe I'm like a physical touch person, that's how I express myself through love. But I know that they'll feel seen and loved if I come home with like a little snack for them, because I've thought of them, I've considered them. And that's the same in friendships. Like, sorry, were you all witness to the podcast where I literally cried because Faith made me a crocheted frog?
Oops.
Like, because and I actually said, I can't remember if it's in the podcast or not, it was literally like a 20-minute thing of me just having a breakdown, so we had to edit a fair bit of that out. But in one part of that, I was like, why would I need romantic love when I've got people in my life who love me so well as friends? And I think with the being loved well as friends and that closeness, also then pain is amplified. and like hurt is then amplified, because the deeper you are, the more connected you are, the more you love each other. Obviously, then if they do something to hurt you, that's like, woof. And I honestly feel like sometimes friendship breakups can be equal to, if not more painful than romantic ones. Because some friends are with you for life, and then like stuff goes wrong, or there's distance or whatever it may be, and that heartbreak is so difficult. There's actually, I might tag them. I don't know their name or their or their handle, so
you might have trouble tagging them.
That might be difficult. But basically, it's someone on Instagram, and she's released a book about friend breakups.
That's cool.
And how I think she found that harder than romantic ones.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's really interesting.
Going back to, you mentioned love languages.
Since we love a definition, should we define them? Because people might not know what love languages are.
Yeah.
So there's 5.
Yeah.
So acts of service. So like someone doing something for you, taking a load off your shoulders.
Yeah.
So I'll do the dishes, or I'll take the car to the garage, or whatever it may be, filling up your petrol tank. Words of affirmation. So obviously like words that
Saying
are affirming them.
Things.
Yeah. Compliments, that kind of thing. Writing love letters, that kind of thing. Touch, so physical touch, like holding hands in public, or like having your hair played with, or massages, that kind of thing. Hugs. Gifts. So like big or small, like birthday or not. Because I think people think gifts are like, oh, someone wants diamonds, but like actually, again, that example of really someone's made me something, or someone's thought of me. And then the last one's quality time.
Yeah.
So spending a lot of time with someone where it's quality. We're not just both sat on the sofa scrolling through our phones. Like we're doing something actively engaging with each other,
making memories, kind of.
Going to do something together.
Yeah.
Or it might be sitting on the sofa just chatting. But like there's a quality to it.
Yeah.
It's not like we're just
it's
putting
like
the kids to bed,
intentional
or
all the time.
Yeah.
Because I think, because you were saying about how it's like learning the other person's love language and adjusting your behaviour like in accordance kind of thing. And I think it goes both ways, because I think also you have to like learn what the other person, I'm not going to say, I was going to say partner, but like friend, whoever we're talking about, also understanding their love language. With the expressing love through the love languages, we kind of do it without realising that we're doing it, because that's the way that we work. Yeah. So if you understand what your friend's expressive love languages are, when you see those things, you can recognise it for what it is, as an expression of love, rather than like feeling like, well, there's a gap here because how I receive love is this category, but you never fill that category. Yeah. Being able to see, oh, but you always fill these other 3 categories, and actually I can see that that's the way you express love, so I'm going to choose to receive that as love. Yeah. Do you see what I'm saying?
It's not like you haven't loved me in the way that I want to be loved, therefore you don't love me, or therefore I'm not going to accept your love. Yeah. It's like thank you. Yeah, thank you for showing it in any way, shape, or form. Yeah, exactly. I'll take whatever love I can get.
And because that's what I mean. It's like, because we can choose to act in a way that we know is going to be received as love, but we will probably carry on doing the things that are the way that we express love anyway. Yeah. So being able to recognise that is really helpful. So say the person who's expressing the love is an acts of service expresser, but the person that is receiving the love is a words of affirmation receiver. That could be frustrating in that scenario, because that person might always give you a lift, but never say anything, like never go out of their way to say anything affirming towards you as a person. Yeah. But if you can see that acts of service is an expression of their love, that means that you will still feel loved, even if it's not the way that you necessarily naturally would receive it. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it is a really helpful tool, the love languages.
And they're really helpful conversations to have. Early on in our friendship, we were at the gym one night, and we'd been there for a little while, and I was talking about something because I was trying to process something, and it was pretty late. I think we'd been there for quite a while. I think we were in the changing rooms, And I'd said to you probably like 3 or 4 times, like, you know, if you need to go, you can go. Like, if, like, please, like, you know, I know I'm talking a lot, and I was obviously in one of my like spirals. And you're like, no, it's fine. No, it's fine. No, it's fine. And I was like, why aren't you leaving? Like, you're probably tired, and I'm annoying myself. I must be annoying you, sort of thing. But I think you said, or I said, or we had a conversation about, like, what I say is what I mean. So if I say I'm fine to stay, I'm staying. If I didn't want to be here, I wouldn't be here. You need to trust that I'm saying what I mean. And I think, like, we've both had them conversations with each other of like, no, if I say carry on talking, or if I say
I'm not making it up,
I'm not just trying to please you, I generally want to sit and listen, I'm genuinely interested, carry on, because I think obviously we both have tendencies to overthink, and if you have problems overthinking too, check out our last episode 6. Obviously we don't know much about it because we struggle, but that it really helps that mind spiral of I'm wasting their time, they don't want to sit with me, they don't want to be here, I need to stop talking, why am I talking so much, I'm like dominating the conversation, I need to give them space to talk, but I think because we both have that, like, I'll say what I say and I mean what I mean, and if I don't say what I mean, that's on me. That's my responsibility. If I'm sitting there and saying, no, please carry on talking, and in my head I'm like, oh, I want to go home, that's on me. That's my problem, not the other person's. So I think that was like a really helpful conversation to have early on.
I think when people get into like overthinking and they are trying to second guess what the other person is thinking, that just adds so much extra like burden onto that already spirally kind of situation, where like actually being clear and clarifying where you stand with each other means that like you're going to be more effective in actually talking through and supporting and loving one another in that actual scenario as well. And I think like offence and annoyance as well, to me, are things that like you have to be really careful with how you like who you put that on in terms of responsibility, because I was always taught that offence is something you take, you don't give offence. So if I choose to take offence to something that you've said, that's my choice. I'm choosing to take offence. Yeah, okay, it might have been hurtful in the first place, but like that emotion is not something you give to other people. Do you know what I'm saying? And similar with annoyance.
Because normally it's by accident.
Yeah.
In both scenarios.
Exactly. Or it's a misunderstanding, or there's some kind of like, do you know like sometimes when you're reading a book, sometimes I find I love reading a rom-com. Sometimes when I'm reading rom-coms, I want to bash my head against a brick wall, because I'm like, if you just spoke to each other,
literally, if you just said
it would be fine.
If you just said the thing you were thinking, because they're even watching the frustration. Just say what you mean. Say what you want. Express your needs and desires.
Because often that like third act conflict comes from a miscommunication, and that drives me up a wall, because I'm like, but if you just sat down and had a conversation about it, you could clear all that up, because neither of you mean what you're interpreting. And I think this is also something that generally in relationships I found really helpful, is using the language that actually reflects what's going on. So being like, okay, you did this thing, my interpretation of that is XYZ, or my perception of what's going on right now is XYZ, because just because I perceive it in a certain way does not make that necessarily the truth. And
also like it helps someone being like, oh, you're just overreacting, but they might not think that if you were saying, but this is how I've interpreted it. So I'm feeling hurt because I've perceived what you said as hurtful. Can you please clarify if you meant it that way or not? Because clarity is kindness. Like in my eyes, like I just need someone to say, this is what I meant. And I'm like, cool.
And even if that is, even
if it's hurtful, I'm like, cool. I can process that then.
Even if that, literally. Or even if that is actually, do you know what? I was in a bit of a mood. I can see this didn't come across the way that I meant it. Maybe it was kind of wrapped up in a little bit of barbed wire because I was upset. But now I can see that, and I'm going to take the responsibility for that. Even that, again, that's clarity. Clarity doesn't have to mean, oh no, I didn't mean it like that.
Yeah.
Clarity can be, actually I was kind of annoyed at you because this happened and my perception was this, this was happening.
I found you a bit annoying.
Yeah.
And it annoyed me.
Yeah.
But that does not mean that you're an annoying person.
Yeah.
I just felt a bit annoyed at that time.
Yeah.
I was hungry, I was tired, and you said something annoying.
Yeah.
And I got annoyed.
Yeah.
And then we can repair. Or it's not that big of a deal. Like, we'll just move on. But, like, that's why I reacted the way I did. I'm telling you, a nap and a snack, honestly...
Sorted.
Solve the majority of my conflicts would be sorted with naps and snacks.
Have you seen that thing about how if you hate yourself, sleep? If you think you hate yourself, go to sleep. If you think you hate everyone else, have a shower. When you feel like everyone hates you, sleep. When you feel like you hate everyone, eat. When you feel like you hate yourself, shower.
Yes.
Nice.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that would resolve a lot of conflicts.
Yeah. And also, like, give yourself some grace, because if you can think of, like, multiple things that have happened, or things that are on your mind, or things that are going wrong, or things that have stressed you out, or whatever, sometimes it just has to be a case of looking in the mirror and saying, do you know what? I can see there's a lot going on right now. I can give myself some space and some grace that I'm probably not going to be operating on 100% right now. But I'm not going to rely on those feelings today, because actually those aren't, like, feelings are not reliable.
No.
So I'm not going to base my decision on how much I like my life, or how much I like myself, or my friends, or whatever, on how I'm feeling right in this moment, because actually I'm not feeling super stable right now. And that in itself being, like, in the same way that you would do that for a friend, if you came to me and you were like, I feel like I want to move to a different country or whatever, and I'd be like, okay, why though? What's going on? What's the point? And then you just listed off, like, well, I've got this bill to pay and I don't know how to pay it, and also this relationship thing happened and I don't know how to deal with that.
My heating's broke, my car check engine light's on.
Do you know what I mean? It's like, if you listed a whole load of things, it would be like, okay, I think you don't want to move country necessarily.
You want to escape.
I think you're just trying to escape something. And in the same way, like, why can't we give ourselves that same space and that same grace to be like, actually, I did get annoyed at my friend, or I did take something as annoying, but that's probably because my manager shouted at me and I didn't eat till like 2 hours after I would normally, and I'm due on my period. Yeah. Like, it makes sense. Yeah. Logically, cool.
And again, it's like, that's a situation, not a character flaw. Like, if that makes sense. So, my friend annoyed me. That doesn't mean they're annoying. That doesn't mean I have to call the quits on the friendship. Yeah. Like, it's giving people that space, because they're also, like, everyone's going through stuff, aren't they? Like, literally everyone is. Because sometimes someone will, like, have a go at me, or be a bit blunt with me, or be a bit rude with me. And I'm like, that's fine. Like, I can see where that's coming from. Yeah. Like, I know your history, I know your life, I know your current situation. Even if it's that day of, like, you haven't eaten, you haven't slept right for, like, a week, like, that's fine. Yeah. I don't mind you taking that out on me if it's, like, one-off, like a one-off. If it's, like, every single day, then, like, wind your neck in. We're about to have some conflict. But, like, I can cope. If it's, like, sometimes you can just see, can't you?
Yeah,
like,
it is grace, isn't it? It's just
like, I can
grace.
see how bad. I'm just going to give you some space. Yeah. I think with friendships, I think when you're in, like, relationships, you kind of, like, have to work through things, because there's an expectation that you talk every day, or if you live together, or if you're married, like, there's that consistency which is almost, like, obligatory. For example, marriage is literally a contract that says you're going to show up, do you know what I mean? Or that you'll stay there together and work through things. In friendships, there is no contract. There is no... Because basically, 2025 is, like, the year of friendship for me. It's, like, the year of platonic love. And one of the things that triggered that conversation... There's quite a few different conversations that triggered my thought pattern in that. But one of the conversations I had was like, me and my sister celebrated my birthday. We were sitting in a hot tub, and she was like, Rach, why do you prioritise romantic love so much? She was like, friendship, they are literally choosing you with no obligation. There's no contract. There's no expectation. Like, friends choose you over and over and over again and love you over and over and over again. For what? Like, they, like...
Yeah.
Does that make sense about there's no obligation?
Yeah.
So in one way, that's so beautiful, and that's like even more wonderful and lovely. But in another way, it means you can just kind of like avoid conflict because you're not forced to see them on a regular basis. Yeah. Or there's not an expectation that you might talk every day, etc., etc. Yeah. So when it comes to conflict, I think that makes it almost easier to be like, I'm just going to avoid talking to you for a bit because you've upset me, or because I'm hurt, or because whatever. Which is why friendships can kind of just evaporate. I think there's lots of different reasons for like friendship breakups. I think one is that kind of evaporation. Yeah. If people don't handle conflict, it can be like, you know, distance, you move away and that's difficult. Or it could be like, I think an interesting one is like childhood friendships, and then like school, college, uni, whatever friendships, and you kind of grow up together, but then you realise it was kind of a friendship of convenience, or we're friends because we saw each other so much. Friends that you've had because time's kept you together, in a sense of like, well, I've invested 20 years in this friendship, I'm not going to stop being friends with them just because they're maybe not who I would choose now. So I think that's really interesting, how friendships form and what keeps people together, like what keeps your friendship going.
I think conflict feels very like labelable. Does that make sense? Like, to be able to say, oh yeah, I'm no longer friends with that person because conflict, or because something happened, that to me feels like that's quite, in my life, that's quite rare for that to be the reason. I think a lot more of my friendships are like, we're like not quite as close because of time, because of circumstance, because of location, stuff like that. But that doesn't change the fact that that doesn't change how much I value them. It just changes how regularly I see them. And in a similar way, it doesn't feel like a friendship breakup because nothing's broken, but it does still feel like a little bit of grief there. Yeah. That like this friendship isn't what it once was. Yeah. So I guess what I'm saying is that like conflict is is almost quite specific, but I think on a broader level, whilst we might not label it as conflict, there is also like a process through which you do lose friends, or you lose the like intimacy in a friendship just because of context, because as you get older stuff changes, and that in itself brings grief or the feeling of loss, even if there was never like a moment where that changed. And I think in a way sometimes that feels, I don't want to say harder than like a breakup, but like hard in a very different way, because there isn't a clarity or I guess there's nothing to be clear in.
And there's not like a pinpoint. It's not like they cheated on me. It's not like the person was at fault in a really obvious way, or like I think there's a lot of grief that comes with friendships and losing them. I wonder where more conflict happens, in like new friendships or in like years long friendships. Because I think we've done quite a lot of like it might be just because of who we are, but like we've done quite a lot of like expressing wants, needs, desires, expressing boundaries, expressing like the other day you were like, I don't want us just to be like podcast people together. I want us to actually have a friendship outside of that. Let's meet up regardless of the podcast. And I was like, oh, that's so cool, she wants to be my friend.
And I think there is a context there of like, we've had to do a lot, or not a lot, not like, oh, Rachel's really hard work. No. Well, we have done a lot of like talking through stuff, and again, I think you are right that we just enjoy talking about that stuff, and that's how we work. Also, we have this whole podcast and a whole project that we're basically like co-workers in, which does like add a layer of like responsibility, I guess, onto the friendship, because like we're like relying on each other to show up and to do stuff and to put like time into it and effort and whatever, and that in and of itself adds complexities, because I mean like co-workers is a whole nother ball game when it comes to like conflict, because you're doing stuff together all the time. It's not like, oh yeah, we just get to go out for coffee and it's wonderful and whatever, and like do you know what I mean?
There's more opportunity to let each other down.
Yeah,
I saw this thing that was like, it's really important as you get older to create memories of friendships, not just have catch-ups.
Yeah.
So like, it's all well and good for going for a coffee with a friend, but like you're then just catching each other up on separate lives.
Yeah.
But actually, you should be making and creating new experiences.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes that's when like friendships can get a bit stale. When you're just like, yes, my week was like this. How was your week? My week was like that. But instead it's like, hey, let's go bowling, or like, oh my gosh, I'm going bowling and should we go bowling?
Yeah.
I literally haven't been bowling in so long.
Do you know you don't have to wear bowling shoes anymore? Like,
why did you ever?
Why is that? Isn't that like the biggest scam ever then?
Why did you ever have
Well, exactly. I don't know.
Do you think it's because people would like wear high heels on the?
I don't know. I assumed it was like the bowling alley is so like
slippery,
glossy that you'll face plant if you don't have, but clearly not. It looks like some places you do still have to, or they encourage you to. But as long as they're flat-soled and closed-toed.
Oh, it's probably because you're dropping the bowling ball on your toes. Because they're not steel caps, but they are like sturdy.
Yeah, there's like hygiene considerations. Synthetic lanes. Oh, modern bowling alleys often have synthetic lanes, which can be more durable and less prone to damage from various types of shoes. Oh, yeah. Safety.
Well, I'm glad we got that covered.
Did a deep dive into bowling shoes.
What was it?
We were talking about making new memories. Bowling.
Yes. Let's go bowling.
Yeah. Good.
How do you navigate conflict in friendships?
I think same as any... I mean, it's typical relationship advice that communication is key. I think that applies to any relationship, friendship, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I feel like caveat, we've used the word relationship throughout the podcast, but we don't necessarily mean romantic relationships. We're using relationship in the term of you have a relationship with another person.
Yeah, so it's not necessarily romantic, but it could be romantic. Like a friendship relationship.
Yeah.
I think that advice of communication is key stands for any relationship, friendship, romantic or not, platonic or not, whatever. Because again, we're not mind readers, and when we try to be mind readers, often that's not healthy. Like, we end up creating scenarios that don't actually exist, and reading into stuff in ways that it shouldn't be read into, and whatever. And so the more you're able to communicate effectively with each other, the better. And I think also communicating, even if you don't know that it's necessarily going to be effective or efficient, because communication is the goal, not sorting the conflict necessarily. Like, you don't deal with conflict for the sake of dealing with conflict. You're after the other person, you're after a relationship, you're after does that make sense?
The goal should be understanding, not necessarily like I'm right, you're wrong.
Yeah.
So the goal is to understand the process of either how you got there, or what the other person's thinking or feeling, or what you can do better next time. So the purpose is to understand why we are where we are, how we got there, and what we can do about it. Not, no, I need you to understand I'm right about this. Like, what you're saying is stupid and I'm right. Like, that's not the goal. The goal isn't to win, it's to understand.
And I think some people think that the goal is to win. I think some people think that the goal is to get the conflict over with as soon as possible.
Yes.
That's also not the goal.
Yes.
So the goal isn't to eliminate conflict. Like you're saying, the goal is to communicate about it, understand each other, and know each other better, and to be able to move forward. So that, like, rupture and repair, the goal is repairing, the goal is coming back together. But practice makes perfect, right? So, like, the more you go through this process, communicate with each other, understand each other, the easier it'll get over time. So I think in terms of, like, how you navigate conflict, communicating and being patient, giving it time. And also, I will say, expecting it. Yeah. Not, like, don't be blindsided when stuff comes up, because we're all imperfect, we're all human, we all have stuff that upsets us or that we find difficult. And so it is very likely, if not guaranteed, that stuff will come up and that you will... Do you know when we're going on a bear hunt? Yeah. The only way is through it. Like, can't go over it, can't go under it, can't go around it. The only way is through it. And that going through it is what builds actual, genuine, meaningful friendships that can hold the weight of, like, actual life, rather than it just being, like, superficial kind of... And not that there's anything wrong with having those, like, superficial, acquaintancey, friendshipy... we hang out every now and again. Like, friendship is such a... spectrum. Yeah, such a varied category, isn't it? Of, like, all of the different kinds of friendships that you can have and be in, and all of those hold value in their own way. I think we're particularly talking about, like, the closer types of friendships.
I think to add to your list of things like communication, the way you speak about it to other people, I think is really 100%. Important. I think, like, obviously, like, in friendships in school and stuff, people could be, like, really bitchy or like, oh, she's gone and done this, da da da. Yeah. I don't know why schools use school as an example. That's, like, general life. Yeah. And I think, like, if you're in friendship groups, that's really hard to be like, she's so annoying today, da 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 da. And, like, it becomes, like, a bit of a gossip fest, or a bit of a, like, you get a bit of, like, something from it. Versus actually sometimes it is healthy to talk about it with other people. Yeah. And then they can be like, I think you're being a bit selfish or a bit overdramatic or a bit, you mean? Yeah. That they can ground you a bit sometimes. Or they can be like, you need to have a nap and go to bed and like sort yourself out, because this isn't, you're crazy.
Is it shower, food or a nap that you need? Yeah. So sometimes it's helpful to go to other people and say, like, this is a situation, can I have some of your clarity on it, or can I have, like, a perception that's not mine on it, or perspective on it that's not mine. So it's being, I think that's a really hard boundary to, like, get right. The kind of, like, gossiping / advice, like, which is I'm tearing someone down and which is I want to build with someone. Because I think third parties can be really helpful. Yeah. When I've done something to upset you, I'm sure you probably go to Joss and talk about it. And it's just, like, how you talk about that changes the tone of the conversation, doesn't it? And you come away then either thinking, I probably just need to, like, sit on it for a bit and then talk to her about it, or maybe it's a me problem, I need to go have a nap, or maybe she's actually really done something and we need to really have, like, a conversation about it. And that's really helpful versus she's just an annoying little piece of work. Both can be true. and you're absolutely right, how you talk about it, and I think also who you talk to about it, because I know that, so using that example of you've done something, I've found it annoying, I talked to Joss about it, Joss is a safe space. Like, he's not gonna, I trust that that's not gonna change his perception of who you are as a person, because, like, I mean, me and Joss annoy each other, like, we know that doesn't change. Annoyance does not negate love. Like, both it's can coexist, and more often than not they do coexist, because, like, they're close quarters things. Absolutely.
Another phrase which I've heard quite a lot from, like, someone who's, like, I view really highly, is he heard it from someone else he views highly, or not, but it goes on. And it's basically like, when someone's saying something to you about someone, she did this, she did da 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 da. Oh, and what did you say when you told her that? Yeah. And you're like, ooh. Yeah. I've just come to you to tell you about it. Like, I haven't actually talked to that person about it. Yeah. So I really like that phrase, to get out of that thing of, like, let's just, like, pile on and, you know,
Yeah.
rile the person up. It's like, oh, what did they say when you went and told them that's how you felt about it?
Yeah.
And if they haven't got an answer, I think I'm the wrong person that you're talking to right now.
Yeah.
Like, you probably need to go have this conversation with your friend.
Yeah.
Because, again, it's a balance, but if you're not having healthy conflict with friendships, because there will always be conflict, it's just whether or not you're dealing with it.
Yeah.
And if you're dealing with it in a healthy in a healthy way-ish enough, you know, 80% of the time it's decent conflict, then, like, you're gonna have a long, healthy, happy, probably, friendship. Whereas if you're not dealing with stuff, the stuff is there, the carpet's just getting a bit higher every time you shove some dust under it. And, like, that will either erupt or just dissipate.
And I guess part of it dissipating is kind of leaving a bit of a bitter taste. And it being adding to cynicism and skepticism and bitterness and
like, if I saw them in the street, how would I react? Because I don't know where I stand with them, because we just kind of, like, pretended it wasn't there and just stopped talking to each other. So it's like, it's a weird one, that sort of ending of a friendship. So I think might have just answered the question, because I've literally just said there's always going to be conflict.
Right.
So is it normal to have conflict in friendships?
Yes.
From my understanding, I would say yes.
Yeah.
Again, there's balance. If you're fighting every time you see them, what's the point?
Yeah.
But if you're never saying things out loud, you probably need to have some conversations out loud. Balance.
Yeah.
So any summary, final thoughts, closing arguments? Hey.
Well, you did this the other day.
And I hate you.
I don't think so. I think, like we've said, conflict I think is pretty normal. Whether you recognise it's there or not. But also, like, sometimes it's okay to let things go and give each other grace and space, and not need to follow everything up with a conversation. I think trust comes into it quite a lot. If you trust the other person and you believe you know who they are,
you know their character,
then, you know, you do perceive all of, like, you have to give people, you have to think the best of people, don't you? And
always assume the best.
That's, like, a really powerful. Otherwise sometimes we can make up conflict in our head. When actually it's not really there, and no one else would perceive that there would have been anything there either, because it's all in your head.
And also, when we make up that stuff in our head, we then have an emotional attachment to it. So if I read a message wrong from someone, I have an emotional reaction where I'm like, oh, I can't believe they're being so selfish and so rude and so mean. And then I meet up with them, and they're like, oh, you know, the other day when I texted you that thing, and I was like, yeah, and they're like, oh, because I meant that, and I'll be like, oh, I had loads of, like, resentment and bitterness about that message that I now have to work through, that didn't need to be there because I created a scenario in my head. And also, I think, like, the level of conflict you have in a relationship or, like, a friendship doesn't equate to whether or not you should be friends or your level of closeness. It's just sometimes some people are easier to get on with because you have similar coping mechanisms, or you have similar interests, or you have similar communication styles. So I don't think it's wrong or right the amount of conflict you have in a relationship, friendship. It's just how you deal with it. So it's like, so there'll be some friends where I'll probably never have, like, an actual argument with, or, like, a screaming match with, because either the depth's not there, or, like, we just get each other. Like, sometimes you just get people, don't you? Like, whereas there are other people who I see on, like, a daily basis, there's gonna be, like, if you look at the statistics, the odds are, if I see you once every 3 months, we're one argument a year. If I see you every other day, we're probably gonna have more than one argument a year. Like, it's just odds, it's just statistics, and that's cool and that's fine. So I don't think it's like, it's not like a right or a wrong thing. It's just it just does happen, because people are hard work sometimes.
And I think a lot of, I guess one thing we haven't really covered, which cover in depth. But like, one thing to also be mindful of is that a lot of the time what we do take offence to or what we do find annoying often says more about us than it does the other person.
Absolutely.
So a lot of conflict just comes from each of us having our own stuff that we find hard or that is tricky for us.
So my phone died halfway through that recording. So
if the lighting's a little bit different, that's why. Also, obviously, we were in a flow before.
Yes.
So we had just been talking about how often conflict shows us more about ourselves than it does the other person, because it highlights insecurities, it highlights things that we find difficult.
Yeah. And any close relationship, friendship that we have, it's a mirror, isn't it? Like, they're just bringing out stuff in us, but the stuff they're bringing out is our stuff to deal with. Yeah. The responsibility is on me to deal with my triggers or my issues or my insecurities, but in a loving, caring relationship, the other person would want to support you in that. Yeah. And I think that's when you know it's a good friend, because they're not like, well, suck it up, deal with it. Yeah. They're like, okay, cool, I'll try and adjust my behaviours to make things easier. Yeah. But no one's ever going to be perfect, are they? Like, no one's ever going to be able to adjust their behaviours to the extent that we never get hurt. It's not normal, it's not natural. And as we've discussed, conflict is normal and natural. Yeah. So
I think, in summary, we clearly agree that conflict in friendships, relationships, like in interpersonal stuff, is completely normal. Yeah. How you deal with that might look different person to person, friendship to friendship, couple to couple, whatever. But also that we kind of have to expect that is going to be a reality that we will face, whether that's like, however that expresses itself, whether that's little disagreements or big disagreements or things that potentially break a friendship or things that are just like day-to-day stuff. But we do have to kind of expect that, because it comes from people not being perfect, and it's unfair to expect friends or other people around us to be perfect. But yeah, hopefully the conversation that we've had does highlight that to you all, that it is really normal, and there's lots of helpful ways that we can think about conflict, or helpful tools that we can use to kind of understand ourselves and the other person, and make sure that we're I really like the phrase pouring buckets of grace into a situation. It's not like oh, I'll give you a little bit of grace, but actually being like overly generous with each other.
And that word "each other" is quite important, because we're not saying like, if you're in an abusive or toxic friendship, to stay in that. Yeah. Do you mean like? Yeah. So is it counterbalanced by the other person? Yeah. So is it, you upset me, here's a bunch of grace and understanding, and let's get to the bottom of it, sort of thing, and then vice versa. It's that that equality in the friendship. Yeah. Because like, friendships, relationships, they're never going to be 50-50. Like, we're never both going to be bringing 50-50 to the table. Yeah. Some days I'm at like 20% capacity, you're at 80%, so you're going to be carrying the bulk of the conversation or the fun or the planning or the decisions, and I'm just there for the ride because I'm at full capacity. Yeah. So it's understanding that like, there are ebbs and flows in life, and sometimes you'll feel like your friend's therapist, and sometimes you'll feel like, oh, I'm always the one stepping out making plans. And on the other side of that, there'll be days where you're sick and they bring you soup or something. Do you mean like, in friendships, relationships, there's such an ebb and flow to the phases and stages of life that you're in and how they affect your friendships. Oh, my friends just had a baby, so they're not spending time with me. Of course, they have to keep a little creature alive. Yeah. So actually, I'm showing up for them more than they are for me. Yeah. But that's fine, because I know last year when I had a horrific breakup, she was there bringing me ice cream every day. That's not like every day. But she was there emotionally, physically for me, supporting me. I know I can give that back now. So it's not always even or equal in the sense of like output, but like characteristically, is it a friendship that grows you, that you have fun in, that you feel safe in? that's really important.
Yeah.
So we're not saying, yeah, go ahead, like, have a bunch of toxic relationships, like, just give people a bunch of grace. Yeah, like, I'm a doormat, baby.
Yeah.
Like, that's not what we're saying, but it's kind of again all in balance.
Yeah, and this is very much in the context of, like you say, in a safe relationship, like a safe friendship, where you're not being taken advantage of or anything like that. And also, like, not that. Even relationships that are safe can still be hurtful.
Yeah,
like there's always stuff.
Yeah.
But hopefully at least that assures you that you're not alone in having those feelings. But we hope you enjoyed the episode 7.
We hope all the good stuff
wasn't
deleted by my phone. Whoops.
Yeah, as a reminder, you can follow us on Spotify, which will give you like notifications of when the new episodes come out, so make sure you do that. You can also follow us on social media. We're on TikTok and Instagram at the Is It Normal podcast. If you have questions that you would like us to answer in an episode, you can either DM us on those platforms or email us at theisitnormalpodcast@gmail.com. If you want to shout out, let us know. If you want to stay anonymous, let us know. I think that's everything.
Yeah. And like, go fill out the polls and just let us know if you have any thoughts about it. Like, we'd love to know people's thoughts.
Yeah.
And what you're thinking and what you're feeling about what we're saying, really.
Yeah.
So yeah, get involved.
Thanks for listening.
It's about you. Oh, also, every time, you're normal because no one is, and you're not alone in the figuring out of what's normal and what's not. We got your back.
Thanks for listening. Bye.